I was adopted as a baby, the kind of adoption story that starts long before I was even born. My parents had spent years desperately trying to conceive. Countless doctor visits, hormonal treatments, endless waiting rooms, and more heartbreak than anyone should have to go through. They tried IVF more than once. It drained them, emotionally, financially, spiritually. Eventually, when the hope of having a biological child ran out, they turned to adoption. And then, there was me. For a while, I truly felt like I was theirs, like I had finally filled the empty space in their lives. They held me close, took family photos, celebrated my milestones, and told everyone how lucky they were to have me. And maybe they really believed it for a while. But everything shifted the moment my mom got pregnant. Naturally, unexpectedly, and completely against everything the doctors had told them. It was a shock, but to them, it felt like divine intervention. When my little sister was born, they said it was a miracle, the one they had waited for. And even though I was still there, still their child, something about the way they looked at her was different. Her birth didn't just change our family dynamic, it redefined it. From day one, she was adored. She was delicate, special, untouchable. They nicknamed her Princess. And that's not just something I'm calling her for the sake of the story. That's what everyone in our family calls her. Princess. It started as a joke, but it stuck. And eventually, it stopped being funny. She was treated like royalty, and I slowly became the shadow in the background. When I got a toy, she got 5. If I messed up, I got grounded. If she messed up, it was brushed off. Her drawings were hung on the fridge. Mine were left on the table until they accidentally got thrown away. It wasn't overt cruelty. I wasn't abused. But the difference in treatment was loud, constant, and impossible to ignore. And the worst part? No one ever said it out loud. No one ever acknowledged what was happening, which made me feel like I was crazy for noticing it at all. But I wasn't crazy. I was just no longer the miracle. As Princess got older, the gap between us didn't just stay. It widened. She quickly figured out that she didn't have to follow rules, that she could say whatever she wanted, do whatever she wanted, and the consequences, they didn't apply to her. She'd throw tantrums in public, and my parents would laugh it off like she was being spirited. She'd take my things, break them, lie about it. And I'd be the one asked to let it go because she was younger. Once, she hit a neighbor's kid hard enough to draw blood, and my parents spent more time defending her than apologizing. It was like they were afraid to admit she could do wrong. The favoritism wasn't subtle, but it was always dressed up in excuses. She's still learning. She's sensitive. She's just going through a phase. Meanwhile, I was expected to be the bigger person. Always. I started learning how to disappear. I stopped trying to get their attention and started focusing on anything that got me out of the house. School became my sanctuary. Clubs, sports, volunteering. Anything that meant I didn't have to go home right after the bell rang. Summers? I'd find internships, part-time jobs, even unpaid ones. Just to stay away. Just to breathe. By the time I was a teenager, I'd carved out a version of life that didn't rely on them at all. I had friends, I had teachers who believed in me. I had my boyfriend, someone who listened, who saw me, who reminded me I wasn't insane for feeling the way I did. His family welcomed me with open arms. They invited me to dinner, to movie nights, to holidays. They didn't tiptoe around Princess. They didn't treat me like an afterthought. So I started spending more and more time there. At first, it was just weekends, then weekdays, then overnights. By the time I had my own car, I was only home maybe 1 day a week, just enough to grab clothes or check in. And the wild part? My parents didn't even seem to notice. Or maybe they did and didn't care. Graduation was coming up, the one milestone I had actually asked my parents to be part of. I didn't expect much from them anymore, but this This mattered to me. I'd worked hard. I earned honors. I kept my head down and pushed through years of feeling like the outsider in my own home. And this was the finish line. I wanted them there. I needed them there. Not for a big gesture, not even for praise. Just to show up, just to be present. At first, it seemed like they would be. They said all the right things. They smiled when I brought it up. Some extended family was coming too, which gave me this tiny sliver of hope that maybe, just maybe, I'd get to have a normal family moment. But of course, Princess had other plans. That same morning, she found a rare Laboo's plush for sale online, something she had apparently been obsessing over. And instead of waiting a day or arranging a pickup later, my parents dropped everything and drove out to get it. $350. For a toy. They showed up to my graduation late. So late that by the time they arrived, the caps were already in the air. The moment was over. They missed everything. I didn't speak to them afterward. I didn't even look at them. I walked right past and left with my boyfriend and his family. That was the day I stopped hoping. That was the day I stopped coming back. After that, I didn't really go home anymore. I only returned in short bursts, to pack my things, grab my stuff, and leave again. I never stayed long enough for conversation. My parents started calling, texting, sending guilt-ridden messages about how sorry they were. But they didn't understand what they were apologizing for. Not really. And the worst part? They thought it was about the money, so they sent me another $100 like that would fix it, like my silence had a price. I didn't respond. Not to the texts, not to the calls, not to the $100 they shoved into a card and dropped off at my boyfriend's place. Because it was never about the money. It was about never feeling like I mattered. Not enough to be chosen, not enough to be prioritized, not even for one single day that was supposed to be mine. They thought they could patch over years of neglect with cash, like affection was transactional. But that's the problem. They never really knew me. They knew how to raise a daughter. They just didn't know how to raise two. And now that I've pulled away completely, they've started to panic. Not because they miss me, but because they've lost control of the story. My mom left a voicemail saying they were going to report me as missing. Said they'd contact my college and let them know I was unstable. That word hit me like a slap. Unstable. I've been holding this entire family dynamic together with silence since I was old enough to understand it wasn't safe to speak up. And now they want to label me as the problem? They don't want to find me. They want to shame me into coming back. But they don't get to do that anymore. I'm not running away, I'm not lost, I'm not hiding, I'm just done begging to be seen. I'm 18. I've graduated. I've built a life outside of that house, one small choice at a time. I'm not some runaway child. I'm not unstable. I'm just someone who finally realized she didn't have to keep proving her worth to people who never saw it. And I don't hate them. That's the part they'll never understand. I'm not doing this to punish them. I'm not trying to get revenge or cause some dramatic fallout. I just reached my limit. There's only so long you can live in the shadow of someone else before you start to wonder what your life would look like in the light. So, no, I'm not going back. Not until they understand that I'm not a placeholder, not a phase, not a second-class daughter. I'm a whole person. I've always been one. They just never bothered to look.